These are the 5 players that you must draft in fantasy football this offseason. We absolutely crushed these types of picks last season, so I'm looking to run that back. I put a ton of research into this video, so if you could leave me a follow and a like, that would be great, and let's get straight into it. Number 5 is Keenan Allen, currently going at pick 54 on Sleeper and Underdog Fantasy, and all the way down at pick 75 on ESPN. He had the highest open score out of any wide receiver this offseason, which is basically ESPN stat to quantify how good of a route runner you are. And for context, he scored a 91, which was 6 points better than any other player. 85 was CeeDee Lamb. He averaged 21.5 full PPR points in 2023, which is third only behind CD and Tyreek Hill. He ran 100% of his team routes last year and played 91% of snaps. This dude, they would not take off the field. That's a great sign for what he's going to do on the Bears. People may be concerned that Rome Odunze is going to come in and take over some of Keenan Allen's work because they think DJ Moore is so good, but they are not at all the same type of wide receiver. Keenan is by far the best route runner and slot receiver on that team, and he's a great blocker. He's going to be on the field for 2 wide receiver sets. Rome Odunze is a prototypical X wide receiver, so he is mainly going to be competing with DJ Moore, who will probably start the season as the X and maybe move to the Z by the end of the year. If Caleb is really the amazing quarterback prospect that everyone seems to think he is, I want pieces of this offense, which should be very pass heavy, because DeAndre Swift is not a guy that you give 20 bell cow touches a game to. He's way too small and his vision is not good enough. So I'm going to go with the guy in Keenan Allen that is getting way overlooked, drafted way too low, who played probably the best out of any of the 3 wide receivers last year. 4 is DeAndre Hopkins, another old man who's going at pick 69 on Underdog, 76 on ESPN, and 87 on Sleeper. His route running was very underrated last year. He was top 5 in open score, tied with AJ Brown and Garrett Wilson. But you probably had no idea about this because his quarterback play was so bad last year. He had the second most total air yards at 1,900 yards, but the second most unrealized air yards at 1,071. These were both second in the league, and he had 35 deep targets as well, which was also second. It's so obvious how they want to use him, but Ryan Tannehill couldn't get anything done early on, and Will Levis was just a rookie with not many first-team reps when he got to finally start. But we did see a flash of that upside in Will Levis's first game. He did throw Hopkins 128 yards and 3 touchdowns in that first game for 35 fantasy points. Levis is one of my top candidates to have a real second-year breakout, as now he gets a full offseason to take the actual first-team play reps, where he's going to be able to develop a deeper connection with his wide receiver. On top of that, his O-line is much improved throughout the draft. He did have the worst O-line in the NFL last year, and now he may actually have time to throw those deep passes to Hopkins. Then we have 2 pass-catching running backs in Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. No more Derrick Henry to just completely wash down the clock and drain away plays. And finally, the add Calvin Ridley, who was one of the most unlucky, unsung heroes of last year's season. He had so many toe taps in the end zone that were called off. He had 258 air yards that got called back due to penalties. Just a bunch of crap went wrong for him, but he still had over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. I think he's a big improvement to this offense that gives D-Hop more help to do his thing downfield. Not to mention, finally, a coaching change that is going to be more focused on passing instead of running the ball. Mike Vrabel is gone. Player number 3, James Conner, going at pick 58 and 60 on ESPN and Sleeper, and then he's all the way down at 93 on Underdog. This is another guy who people just don't realize how good he was last year. He was averaging over 5 yards a carry on this garbage offense. Even while missing 5 games last season and having Kyler only play half the season, he averaged over 16 points per game. Then over those final 5 weeks, he had 22.5, 17.9, 22.2, 26.3, and 30.4 fantasy points. We think of Conner as this slower plodding running back, but last year he was actually very evasive and had a good amount of long runs. He had 13 runs of 15 or more yards, which was 6th in the league, and as I said, he missed 5 games. He was 7th in breakaway run rate, which measures the percent of the time where you actually do break off a 15-yard run. And the craziest part is he was 8th in total juke rate, which measures the amount of times you make a defender miss or you break a tackle. For a guy that's as slow as we think Conner is, he's kind of a beast at breaking tackles. So by every metric, he was a great running back last year, and even the 2 years before that, he was still great, scoring 18 touchdowns in one of those seasons. And now we get a much improved offense with Marvin Harrison joining, Trey McBride breaking out, and finally a full Kyler Murray healthy season. I would really be shocked if he's not top 5 by the end of the year in total goal line touches, and I think the offense could be sneaky good. He should have 13 plus touchdowns easily. Player number 2 is Raheem Mostert, currently going at pick 83 on Sleeper, 94 on ESPN, and 96 on Underdog. Another older running back who outperformed everybody's expectations, and I'm not just talking about his touchdown count, but 21 touchdowns total is absolutely insane. On top of that, he had 53 red zone touches, and he did that while missing 3 games. Excluding his 1 injured game, he averaged over 18 points per game, only behind Kyron and CMC. Mostert has had back-to-back successful seasons Hopkins in Miami, averaging 4.8 and 4.9 yards per carry. He currently fits their scheme and had the 6th highest breakaway run rate last year. The dude is a demon. A big part of why he was so successful is because on average, he only had 6.5 defenders in the box. This was 57th in the league. The reason for the boxes being so light is because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle make defenses respect their deep ball game, and they can't just stuff the box. So this is likely to be a trend that continues into 2024. The one argument against Mostert that a lot of people have is A-Chain should have a bigger role, but I only believe that in terms of pass catching, and that's what the offense has told us. There are reports that A-Chain is running as a wide receiver in this training camp, and I totally get that, but that's not going to take anything away from Mostert. He only averaged about 1 to 2 receptions a game last year. He was mainly just a goal line red zone threat. Not to mention Mostert is a much bigger running back than A-Chain is, so he should get all the goal line work, while A-Chain is going to be more that scat back that they want to get in space, getting a lot of receptions. They can both have their respective roles and both be very successful, just as we saw last year. Why would they want to give the smaller back A-Chain more of the goal line work and get him likely hurt if he gets like 70% of the touches? He's gonna get hurt. He only played 11 games last year. Both these guys are pretty injury prone. Just split it evenly. This offense has plenty of opportunity for both of them. And before the final player, make sure you guys are playing all of your drafts on Underdog Fantasy. I've already drafted over 60 paid leagues of $25+ buy-ins. They are offering some crazy prizes like a $15 million tournament called Best Ball Mania. First place is $1.5 million. So if you think you have what it takes to win in fantasy football, join Underdog with code DNR and they'll match your first deposit up to $250. And number one, I talked about him a little bit in yesterday's video on my top 12 quarterbacks. Go check that out. It's Patrick Mahomes. Here's a little bit more in-depth detail why I love him. Right now, he's going at pick 38 and 39 on ESPN and Sleeper, and all the way down to pick 50 on Underdog Fantasy. Vegas projected the Chiefs to score 21.5 points per game last year. Now it's all the way up to 27.5. You understand how much it is to score an extra touchdown per game more? That is so insane as an offense. Worthy and Marquise Brown are going to completely flip this offense on its head. They're going to open up the deep ball like we haven't seen in the past 2 years. They're taking over the Justin Watson and MVS roles from last year, but defenses are actually going to have to respect these guys as wide receivers. Mahomes and this offense were playing so scared last year, averaging a pathetic 6.5 air yards per attempt, ranking 33rd in the league. For context, when he had Tyreek Hill earlier in his career, we saw numbers like 9.2, 8.6, and 8.2 for Mahomes. The Chiefs were also a much slower offense last year, ranking 17th in pace of play. Pretty much all his years prior, they're very pass heavy and always top 5 in that category. 55 touchdowns and 5,500 passing yards should not be out of the category for a guy like Mahomes. Especially now that everybody's healthy, Kelsey was dealing with a lot of injuries last year. And maybe the best benefit to actually drafting Mahomes is that all his pieces around him, Kelsey, Marquise Brown, Worthy, and Rashee Rice, are very easy to stack with him. None of them are too expensive. Only one that's even going ahead of him is Kelsey at pick 38. Those are the 5 players you need to draft this year, and I'm going to come out tomorrow with 5 players you do not need to draft this year. So drop a like, leave a comment on what other videos you want to see, leave a follow, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.